Alright, cool. Hey, Losberger here again with another video. This one comes from the request of good old J-Rock. Once again, he was just asking for some tips and tricks. He was telling me that he noticed when we were playing some custom games the other night from Drunken Halo Community Night, game night, that I was getting ahead of the pack a little bit in an infection game that was pretty much oriented against getting away from the infected and escaping. So he was curious on how I got away so quick and how he could orient that into his gameplay. He realized that there's more than just a tactic of sprinting and pushing yourself in one direction. There's a faster route to get to places. So this is actually can be utilized a lot in Halo. More specifically, a lot of people use it to start off matches, to beat positioning, to power weapons or power-ups. So I'm just going to go over a brief overview for that. I am going to start with the rig here. Because it is a pretty open jungle gymmy type map that you can do a lot of different slides and jumps and everything on. That I will just kind of demonstrate how those things work and how you can use them to utilize your own gameplay. And this is going to be very simple tips and tricks, nothing too fancy. They're just some things that I feel like some people get glossed over a lot, and a lot of people don't take the time to understand how they work or how they can benefit from them. So, for example, I was playing with Bunge a couple weeks ago, and the guy, he's been playing for years and years and years and years, and nobody explained to him that there is such a thing as a crouch jump. So I had to explain that to him. He knew there was a pro jump, but he was unaware of a crouch jump. So I had to explain that to him and how that's utilized in Halo. And he pretty much uses that all the time now, from my understanding. So, alright, let's go ahead and get this started. So, as you can see, I'm kind of just flying around right now. Which, by the way, that is the term for this. It's called flying. A lot of pros use it. They'll say, hey, I'm flying to back blue, or hey, I'm flying to red bridge, or to X position. And the reason they say that is because they're going to move there at such a fast rate, it's just considered flying. They're like soaring in there, getting in there. So it just kind of became a new term that people use. A lot of people have been putting it in their names, like Spartan. His new account is Sparty McFlies now. Just something a lot of fast-paced players use. So I'm going to explain to you flying real quick in a simple little tutorial here, and this is pretty much the basics of it and I'll explain each part in depth. So let's go ahead and go over the Spartan abilities and break them down to the simple flow of understanding how each one of these plays into one another to make a fly happen. So we're going to start off with the sprint. So when you sprint, you just sprint. Now the one thing I do want you to take notice with, watch the reticle. So it is a circle right now, correct? Whenever we start sprinting, it will move into a strange two-triangle type reticle, I suppose is what it could be called. So watch that. See that pop up? Right there. Right there? Okay. That's how you know you've met the peak of your sprint. And when you get this down to a science, you'll understand, you have an idea of how long you have to sprint for that to start happening. But once you've met that, that's when you can slide. So, and before that, you won't slide. So if I'm going that, well, I guess you will slide, but you won't be at your full potential for a whole slide to get the full distance you can. So, sprinting, that is one little simple thing that you might learn about sprinting. You might not have known that. This is also how you know you can Spartan charge. So, for instance, at this distance, you see how the reticle is going away, but it's still not fast enough that I can do a Spartan charge. When it turns into that triangular section reticle, then you can do a Spartan charge. Now, Spartan charges, we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit, because that is something that it took me a while to start utilizing in my flow, in my flying, so I'm not going to worry about that for right now. It's a little bit more situational and not as important. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. So this is when you're at your full peak sprint, when you have met this triangular reticle. Okay, so there's two more things we're going to use with a fly, with a speed booster. I don't know what the technical term is. I call them thrust slides. I don't know if that's the right term, but that's what I call it. But basically, there's going to be 3 parts to this. Well, 4 parts. There's going to be the sprint, the slide, the thrust, and the jump. And I did not do those in the right order, so let me just go ahead. The order in which we will do them is going to be sprint, thrust, slide, jump. And that sounds really complicated, but if you can get in the habit of doing that, just first off, just get used to running and thrusting. Running and thrusting. Okay? That's the first thing you want to work on. So that's the first piece of the pie. Now, the second part is a little bit more difficult, and this will all flow together. Basically, a thrust is going to be a little bit faster than your sprint. So, I do apologize. My hand is itching, so I'm just going to stand still for a bit. But so whenever you are thrusting, you're actually going to get somewhere faster than if you were sprinting. So if you'll notice, watch, I boost ahead of where I'm at, and I just keep sprinting. But it would be faster to do that as opposed to waiting. And your acceleration there is what you're going to use to boost you through a whole power slide or a thrust slide. Alright, so the next step we're going to go into is the sliding motion. So it's going to be sprint, thrust, slide. So sprint, thrust, I did it wrong. Sprint, thrust, slide. Yeah, I did a jump there on the end, but don't worry about that for right now. Sprint, thrust, sprint, thrust. And then you want to keep sprinting again. So tap A at the end so you can start sprinting again. Alright. And we'll sync this all up in a beat to where you can remember it. I'll mute the music and we'll get that down together in a second. But the next thing you want to do is throw a jump in there at the end. Because basically what happens is when you slide after you thrust, it's still going to be your slide is going to be moving with the acceleration of however fast you're moving at that time. So if you're sprinting, you're going to slide at the same speed you're sprinting at. If you thrust and slide, you're going to be sliding at the speed of your thrust. So that's why it is a little bit faster. So it's a little bit faster than if I just thrusted and or did a slide thrust. So that's a slide thrust. It's a little bit slower. But try to get in the habit of thrust, then slide, then jump. So I'll go ahead and show you a complete full slide boost jump, or what the hell they're called. And the reason that is even more effective is because, like I've stated before, the thrust is the fastest thing and gives you the most acceleration. So if you use that momentum pushed through a slide, which is going to keep you at the same momentum, or through a jump, which is also going to keep you at the same momentum. For instance, see, I'm still moving at the same sprint speed. I'm just in the air. But if you do that when you're thrusted, and your thrusted is going to move at a faster pace, it's, all three of those things are going to be moving at that speed, which, adds up. It adds up. So, for instance, you can get to power-ups like an overshield, or a camouflage, or a sniper rifle, or all kinds of different things before other people. So that's where this is really going to come in really handy. So let's go ahead and break this down, and we'll get you into a beat. I'm going to go ahead and pause the music playing here. Okay, so we're just going to da 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 da. I fucked it up. But just think bump bump bump. That's what order you want to do this in. Da 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 da. Okay? That's going to take a little bit to get used to. It took me a long time, probably about a month to get this down pat. But, once you get it, it really is a very helpful tool, and it will help you with, not just power-ups and power weapons and position, but also positioning, getting to a higher position, especially if you're one-shot, getting away from the enemy. Another thing is if you're, obviously probably try not to sprint too much if you're weak, because your shields won't go up. But it will give you a chance to put some distance between you and your enemies so that you can get your shields up. As well as it's good for strongholds, because you can fly into the stronghold to start capping it, or to prevent them from capping it. It's just a good little tool to have. So I thought that was a little quick brief overview of how that works and why it works, and because pretty much all this stuff can be broken down to a logical form if you just take the time to think about it. So that is the reason why, is because when you thrust, it is going to be the fastest action you can do. So by doing things like a sprint, or by doing things like a jump and a slide, you get to keep that momentum throughout the whole thing. I hope that's helpful. There are more technical things, because with your thrust doesn't come back right away. So for instance, your Spartan charge is going to move you at the same speed as your thrust, but the thing is, with a Spartan charge, there is no way to connect other actions. Like, you can't slide out of a Spartan charge, or you can't jump out of a Spartan charge and keep the momentum. See, it doesn't do anything. So that's just kind of one of those things. It's like, oh, my thrust is out. Let me Spartan charge real quick. And now my thrust is back, so we can use that now. That would pretty much be the basics of the slide thrust, whatever the hell it's called, flying, etc. There are other things you can get more in tune with, and this is more of jungle gym type stuff, is learning how to clamber appropriately, when to clamber, when not to. Because one thing, and also this applies with sprinting as well, in Call of Duty, I took this from Call of Duty, which is surprising probably to a few of you, but in Call of Duty, I played competitive Call of Duty for a bit. I was not good at it. I just played with some friends that are very good at it, and they just needed a fourth, so they asked me to play. They knew I had some, you know, competitive play in my past. They want somebody with experience and they could trust, so they gave me pretty much the easiest role, you know, not a very difficult thing. They basically made me the AR Slayer, so what that means is I'd sit back, post up, and just camp with an assault rifle. But one thing they did teach me is that when you're coming up on a turn, you don't want to be sprinting in Call of Duty. And the reason for that is your gun is down at your side, and it takes you a second to pull your gun out to fight. Same thing applies in Halo now, because we do have this sprint, and it is going to make it so you can't shoot. See how long it took for me? I'm going to pull the trigger right now. Didn't even shoot. And pull the trigger right now. That's because I double tapped it. So, you know, there is that delay. You don't want to have that. So if you're coming around a turn, such as this, slow down for a second, then come around. That's another reason I like the power slide, is because you can come around that turn in a different fashion, be like, you know, you're already out of it. So, or that's probably a bad example. Let me show you in bottom engine. So let's say there's a guy bottom engine. So I'll get him with one shot. My scope's up. I'm flying through the air in a jump fashion, but my scope is up and I'm able to shoot right away. So that is another little thing to take away from this, because that is one beneficial thing. You can shoot people on the move. That's why you see a lot of pros do headshots on that slide, because they'll basically whip out their sniper. They'll just be like, ah. You know, it is pretty difficult to line up those shots. You don't have all the time in the world, but it is kind of a swing and a miss type deal. It's okay if you miss, so just try it out. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this video. I'm going to make another one on how to appropriately, you know, I don't know, once again, don't know the technical terms for this stuff. I'm just kind of playing it by ear, but for the instance of this video, let's call it, I don't know, let's call it like acrobats. I don't know. Just basically different forms of jumping you can do in the air to stay in the air longer. I'll show a couple examples of those in the next video. All right, J-Rock, hope that was helpful. I'll go ahead and make another video for you about that. But if any of you guys have any ideas or thoughts or anything that you would like for me to, you know, go over, just, you know, anything's fine. If it's simple, if it's hard, I'll do my best to try to explain it to you and break it down for you. Go ahead and give me a like if you thought this video was helpful and you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you enjoyed it as well. We do make some content. I'd like to get more involved in that. I'm toying with the idea of starting up a podcast of my own, which is going to be a little bit different than most of the Halo podcasts you're used to. But I don't know. That's still a work in progress. I got a lot of things on my plate right now. With I just got my stream up and running. I want to get a new Twitch overlay with that. There's a bunch of tournaments I'm part of this month. I'm going to see some family, go on vacation. I just have a lot going on right now, so I'm not sure when that'll come into play. But yeah, no, just you know, that was a little quick update on what's going on with me and my content and everything. So, yeah, once again, if you enjoyed it, give me a like. If you have any other ideas or anything, leave a comment. Get a hold of me in the Slack. Add me on my gamer tag. Add me on Xbox. My gamer tag is LoseBurger, as you can see right here. Yeah, and I appreciate your time. You guys have a great day. Thanks.